What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a 2011 mixtape by 2 Chainz. Basically, this product is called True REALigion, and it came out in the fall of 2011. So the thing about this particular product is 2 Chainz had to switch up of name from Titty Boy to 2 Chainz as far as that pitch can happen. In early 2011, it's a little bit more marketable, even though Titty Boy is a pretty nice name as well as far as that pitch can goes along with it. But he had a string of mixtapes that he put out between like the late 2000s to about early 2010s as far as that can happen, building some mixtape buzz like standard folks like Jeezy, Yo Gotti, some of those type folks did in like the 2000s. But 2 Chainz broke away from Players Circle, which Players Circle definitely had some dope stuff. I did enjoy both their albums from 2007 and 2009. Had some pretty good pitch there, but basically 2 Chainz went solo, capitalized on some of his lyricism. He continued to improve in pitches like that. Definitely had some good concepts. He was good when he was with Ludacris's Fold, but it's just kind of the concept that he improved on, like this mixtape grind. Definitely got into some ones. This is a classic mixtape here. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I was not expecting that. Just as full blown as much as looking after it. Like I do remember like a couple of the 2 Chainz albums I reviewed in the past good while, like based on a true story from 2012, and then Boats to Me Time from 2013. Both of those I want to say I gave like an 8.75, but this one's going to get like a real Raven classic score. This outdoes those particular products. This has that mixtape heat and fire. It's a very spicy type project. It has a lot of appeal. The guests on here are pretty awesome, despite the fact that this is a mixtape and it's free. You can actually find a lot of good consolidation about this product. This really has the appeal. This mixtape in the era of when it was in its prime, when these sorts of products were coming out, like most mixtape rappers were putting out like 3, 4, 5 projects a year back in 2010, 11, and 12. Some of those type pitches, I'd have to say. So it's a dope enough concept for that. Kind of look after it. The impact of it was here. This is a mixtape that charted on the rap and R&B charts back in like 2011 when it came out, and he kept one of the songs off this project. I'm not going to as much full blown talk about this song, but Riot was a song that was kind of like a pseudo charting song. It was kind of like maybe not the full blown single, but it was definitely like a buzz song off here. But that's also on based on a true story. So that one's just like a nice Riot. Riot is just like a nice tempest of like a club song as far as pitch, like that kind of happened like a mixtape type format. So it's a nice pitch. But yeah, basically on this particular mixtape there are 19 songs in here, and minus like the 3 skits and interludes, it narrows it down to 16. And out of those 16 songs, there's really only one song I don't recommend, which the unfortunate thing about it, I do appreciate Jadakiss, but the only song I don't recommend off this project is this One Day at a Time. Is what I'd say. It was just not the concept. It was trying to be like a mafioso type production that just didn't nail it nearly as well as I probably would have liked it to as far as that pitch can happen. There are some mixtape soul type songs that nail that particular pitch better, like Letter to the Rap Game was just a better variation of one. Interesting aspect to kind of get some of those. There are some other ones that kind of do some relative soul, like Knockout, and maybe like one other one that I'm not thinking of, can't really think of it, but there's some good concepts for that. But yeah, this is a lot of mixtape heat. This is pretty ferocious, and it's kind of an unexpected type tangent because back in 2011, 2 Chainz was not as much of a household name back in these days as far as that pitch kind of went. It was just kind of where, you know, Players Circle was kind of in like an off year as far as that particular kind of went. So 2 Chainz had to make a name for himself solo wise as far as that kind of happened. By 2012, obviously he had done that with Based on a True Story, but in like the roots of like the summer of 2011, the fall of 2011, the winter of 2012, some of those type pitches is kind of the concept that he was just kind of like a burgeoning mixtape rapper similar to like Future and Yo Gotti. Well, Yo Gotti in certain senses, and some of those type folks, Meek Mill, some of those type folks that were buzzing around that particular time, but it worked. And this is a successful mixtape. This is a classic mixtape here that's definitely one to immediately go for. At this stage, it should probably be known about. I'm sure that enough folks probably know enough realization about this particular product, but the impact of this is pretty strong. This really happens in terms of solo stuff. I would say this is definitely one of 2 Chainz' crowning projects here. Definitely a real aspect, but so I'm just going to go ahead and get to some of these songs now just to be able to say, because I feel like there wasn't really a single. That's the only unfortunate thing about this project. There was at least a buzz song, like I said, that the song Riot relatively charted, but it's just, I already talked about that one on Based on True Story. But like I said, it's just a tempest of like a nightclub song just within like a mixtape sense, real buzzing type one. I want to say that might have been produced by Mike Will Made It. But some of these ones on here, like Understatement's a real nice one. This is like a vintage kind of early 2010s trap pounder. I would definitely feel like this is definitely some mixtape heat, I'd have to say, and this is similar to Same Damn Time by Future, I'd have to say. So there's a lot of good bops on here. There are some not necessarily like, there's not necessarily like full blown drill like rappers like Future and like Future and Meek Mill and Rick Ross, some of those type folks around that particular time, and other folks like Waka Flocka, some of those type folks, but it does have some of that trap heat of just like the standard nightclub and just money thrown everywhere type pitches, strip club type bops to kind of get within that sense. Songs like Understatement, Money Making Mission, I would feel like Viagra's pretty nice one for that, some of those type pitches, I'd have to say. possibly like Addicted to Rubber Bands, some of those type ones. More than a few that maintain that mixtape kind of fire, I'd have to say. But Money Making Mission's another nice one for that. It's like a trap buzz song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a definite money get type song to kind of have here. Some heavy turn up, I would feel like mixtape heater. I would definitely have to say it's pretty spicy bop kind of get. So a lot of these are just brick for brick, pound for pound. The next ones to kind of fuck with and just mess with this as a whole. A lot of these you can just play in like a relative playlist, just blockades of just these continue type hits for just some trap heat and just takes it back to like the early 2010s mixtape fire as far as that kind of goes. The song Murder with Krayshawn's a real nice one. This is another mixtape type heater to kind of get this a little bit different of a tone compared to some of those trap type ones, but this is like a gnarled kind of local residential trap rumble of a song, I'd have to say. Definitely some house party blitzkrieg, I would feel like, and this is like a song with like hella bottles being all over the place and just noise overall, I'd have to say. It's just a good concept. Like I want to say Krayshawn did a song like this off of her album, like Syrup off of her album, Something About Cray, which is a pretty good pitch. I like the concept of Krayshawn just being more at like the local shindig. It's kind of a concept. Like the thing about this particular product by 2 Chainz is it has like a lot of localized type stuff on here. It's residential bound. It's not as full. I mean, there are some nightclub bops on here like Understatement and Money Making Mission, some of those type ones, Stunt, some of those type ones, but a lot of this can also be around this like neighborhood type bound where there's just gonna be hella bottles and like the kitchen counters and pitches like that, just women twerking in like the kitchen, living room, some of that type area, just pitches like that red cup type music. Krayshawn definitely had vibes like that off of her early projects from like the early 2010s. A good concept, good cameo from her to kind of get that on here. 2 Chainz narrows this song up pretty well. Also, I'd have to say, do like this kind of tone of particular type songs. This is Murder's pretty good standout on here, I'd have to say. A good concept for that. These Krayshawn and 2 Chainz team-ups are pretty good here. Easy kind of highlight to go for. Knockout with Big Sean's a pretty nice one. This is like a woozy and kind of smoke hella good distortion of a song, I'd have to say. It's like a get tore up and be out and about type mixtape soul to kind of get on this particular one. This is just good for some traverse. So this is one, getting fucked up, but then also just kind of not being just housebound as far as pitches like that kind of happen, just kind of vehicle bound typeness. I feel like this is kind of like a good cruise type song to kind of get for just like some mixtape kind of breeziness and just car traverse in like a soulful type format, to something to kind of be not necessarily starry eyed, but just in a relative kind of peppy type mode, just to kind of have some of that, just a real nice woozy type one. Good stuff on this particular song. I like the concept of Big Sean being on here, some good pitches like that, just a real nice one. Just standard out and about in like a smokish type sense. Definite hotbox type song. Definite hotbox type song. Stunt with Meek Mill's pretty nice one. This is like a glazed and kind of woozy mixtape night cruise out of a song, I'd have to say. Definite some pull up type music to kind of get, especially in like a mixtape type format. That's definitely a smoke some good and kind of neighborhood bopper to kind of get. Real nice appeal. Just overall, like this glazed. This is a great one to play in like the autumn for just like some glared type feel. It reminds me a little bit of Jeezy's Recession Days and pitches like that. Just a real nice kind of rickety and almost haunting type one, just in a more trap type sense. It's a real glazed type one to kind of get here that really has some feel. Meek Mill fits on this song pretty well. Another relative haunting type one that works for like some good cruise out type tones is Slangin' Birds. It has like Jeezy and some other folks on there, like Yo Gotti and Birdman. This would have to say it's like a stock kind of vehicle night creeping of a song. I'd have to say some definite night creeping glitz. I would feel like this like a vintage mixtape gem. I would feel like in particular good stuff for that, and it's like a hot box to whip and smoke up type song to kind of get here. Definite for some good type fare just within the southern rap type sense, just within a mixtape type fare. Some good concepts for that. This is one. Is standard Slangin' Birds. It's like a standard haunting type night sense. It's pretty similar. It's a great pairing with the song Stunt, I'd have to say, and probably some other ones. Like at least those two particular ones, I'd have to say maybe a little bit of like Got One, some of those type pitches. I'd have to say some good concepts kind of get some of these, just some standard type fare for like some haunting type senses, and then the aspect of like some good trap mixtape type fare. And keep in mind this mixtape is free, so a lot of these slap pretty hard to be able to get to some of this. Just a standard southern rap mixtape type posse cut that has some real good glitz appeal. Got One is a pretty nice one. This is produced by Mike Will made it. This is like a glittery and kind of sparkled Mike Will trap brewer. Mike Will made it trap brewer. I'd have to say just kind of a bubbler to kind of get here. There's like a mixtape local night round. It's definitely like a mixtape kind of local night round the neighborhood type buzz song to kind of get. So it's just a good concept for some of that. This is a pretty good pairing, I would say, not just with like Stunt and Slangin' Birds, some of those more vehicle centric type ones, but also with like Murder. I'd have to say just a more housebound type one, where I feel like Murder is definitely amongst like the craziness of the night. I mean, the thing about Murder is just the fact that that's a pretty gnarled type one, but it's not like a festive kind of pop bottles, just twerk crazy, just complete 10 out of 10 craziness. But I look after it is a nice song to kind of have for some of that energy. just a good woozy type one to kind of get. And I feel like Got One's another one just within that same night of just like some of that standard fare just showing up, the standard sleaze, the dap, some of that type pitch, and just autumn type fare and just the glaze of it. So it's just some good concepts. I really do like the social score of this album's probably going to get a 10 as well. I'd say it's a good concept for that. Definitely has the pizzazz. Viagra is another nice one. This is a good pairing with like Understatement, Money Making Mission, some of those type ones. It's like a gnarled kind of rowdy buzz song. I would have to say a good buzz song pounder. I would definitely feel like it's a get crunk and kind of vanilla dance noise. I'd have to say a good concept for some of that, and it's like some evening embrace. I'd say so. This is a good. This album kind of almost has like a dichotomy between like more house party type fare, just within the sense of like more kind of sleaze and this kind of sludginess of just like some haunting typeness, similar to like Future's Pluto and Jeezy's Recession, some of that type gnarledness. And then there's also like some mixtape trap type bops on here that are just more standard Future kind of same damn time type cuts, and Tony Montana type cuts to kind of get, and more Yo Gotti type folks, and Meek Mill and Rick Ross, some of that type of. So it's a good concept, a good dichotomy to be able to have that. These are definitely some nice ones. But then there's some further things on here. Letter to the Rap Game is a pretty nice one. This has Dollar Boy from Play His Circle, and then Raekwon on here, which is a pretty good concept. It's like an early 2010s rendition of like Don Cannon mixtape style, I'd have to say, and it's a pretty good throwback hit. So it's just the pitch. I want to say this is like a Gangsta Girls. I didn't mention that too much, but DJ Drama helped helm this particular product, which is pretty dope just to get that in particular. It's definitely a pretty classic type one to get here. DJ Drama affiliation. So this is like a throwback to like the mixtape fair of like 2005, 2006, which 2 Chainz, I don't want to say that I want to say that he didn't put out mixtapes in like 2006, like the mid 2000s type fair, like the Jeezy and like the T.I. Rocco, some of those type folks era, Rick Ross type era, but he was a part of Play a Circle, but I think it just had more to do with disturbing the peace, kind of just, it's not as much like that was full-blown interference, but he was just trying to come up with Play a Circle around that time. But this is definitely a throwback to like 2006, 2007 Letter to the Rap Game. Just a good rendition of that. Good concepts there. This Raekwon on there as a bonus. The song I Got It's a pretty nice one, as well as like a hopping kind of late 2000s promo cut. I would definitely feel like this has some commercial bite about it. I would definitely have to say, and it's like a glitzy kind of residential car pizzazz of a song to say. This one just kind of has that fair, just looking spiffy, some pitches like that. Good concept for step out a little bit, but also residential boundness. Maybe just going to like a house party, some of that type fair. Just the pizzazz of just like relative, maybe just got done with work shift, getting ready to stunt for the night, just in a more residential type sense, and just some good carbs as just for like some pull up type fare. Another good song that goes with that. Not quite as ghastly as songs like Stunt and Slangin' Birds are, but just a nice one to kind of have for like some relative pizzazz. So this album is relatively commercial. I feel like even if it didn't have like the charting singles apart from Riot, it did have some of those concepts, just being able to say that it did kind of have like that pizzazz about it. There are some songs on here like I Got It and Knockout and Kesha, especially some of those type ones that kind of did that. In addition to all those mixtape trap rumblers I've talked about, like Understatement. Spend It's another nice one. This says T.I. on here. This is like a woozy kind of day after hours dredge relief of a song, I'd had to say. It's good. This one's like a relative makeshift type one. You know, like I was saying, it's like a relative makeshift type song to kind of get here. Good fare for like a mixtape, I'd have to say. Just a concept kind of listen to. Just if you're more mixtape centric, you know a lot of these mixtape type songs to kind of get from like late 2011, mid 2011, 2010, 2012, some of those type pitches, but you do have some relative makeshift just within a sense. Blue collar type fare within a relative aspect. It's a good concept, kind of has some of this. 2 Chainz did this more later with like the EDM embrace that he had on like Based on a True Story, but he does have like a minor amount of makeshift kind of on here within a relative sense. I feel like songs like I Got It and Spend It are some of those relative type ones. Not supremely, maybe Kesha's like that as well. I'd say maybe a little bit of Knockout, but for the most part, it's just kind of more. It does have like a radar for some of these type sounds to kind of get here, so it's a good concept for that. Addicted to Rubber Bands. I don't know if I talked about this one. I don't think I have yet, but this is another nice one that's kind of more in like the standard mixtape type fare. It's like a militant kind of trap rumble of a song, I'd have to say. It's like some mixtape heat. I would definitely feel like this like a lyrical snarl in this particular song. Plenty of lyrical snarl on this album. Like 2 Chainz is like a miniature version of like Lil Wayne's Heat. It's not to say like he's like leagues worse than Lil Wayne, but it's just the concept. If you like Lil Wayne and like his mixtape type vibes, the way he tears up some of those type songs, I've said this plenty of times, but 2 Chainz kind of does that as well. It's just he has some pretty good one-liners and punchlines on this song. Some of those type pitches just be able to have. So he is one of the better lyricists for like mixtape type fare. And this is like a vanilla hop of a song to kind of get here. So it's just another stock. This is just another stock kind of one to kind of get within that poundiness, just to have within those aspects. Definitely some good blitz of some stuff here. And then Kesha is a pretty nice one. It's a nice one. This is kind of one that sticks out a little bit. It's a little bit different from most of the rest of the tone of this project, but I do appreciate this one. This is like a dewy and kind of misty ladies summer haze of a song, I'd have to say. Has some relative commercial flavor. I would definitely feel like this like a bait. This is good for like some basic kind of day outing. So it's just kind of the concept of just some commerce, just a relative fare to standard day errands with ladies as far as pitches like that kind of happen. It's like in a relative, just kind of balmy sense, this relative kind of frivolity about it, just standard hop and bop, just within that sense, good concepts for that. But that's the basic concept about this particular mixtape. So this mixtape does get a 10 out of 10, like I was saying. The social score is going to get a 10 out of 10 also. There's just plenty of good demands on this project. The supply is definitely on here, just a good aspect, like these makeshift songs like Knockout, a little bit of Kesha, a little bit of Spend It and I Got It. Some of those type ones definitely work within that sense of just like some promo type songs, some woozy kind of makeshift dredge, some pitches like that. Plenty of good mixtape trap rumblers, just pitches like that. If you do like that drill sound, you missed that from like 2011, 2010, 2012, some pitches like that. It is on here. There's some good vehicle turn up type songs, some pitches like that. Songs like Slangin' Birds, Stunt, and Got One. Definitely some house party sleaze like Got One, Murder, and some of those type ones, I'd have to say. Some other ones like Turn Up. I don't know if I talked about this song. I'm gonna have to talk about this one too. Now that I think about it, some of those type ones just within the aspect, but plenty of good house party type moments. I'll go ahead and talk about that, but I'll get this song Turn Up first. I didn't talk about this one, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. Turn Up is like a rickety kind of night energy glitz of a song. I'd have to say it's like a basic kind of smoke a few energy. I would definitely have to suppose, and it's like a neighborhood commerce kind of hit here. So this one, it has some of that staccato type turn up. It's a real skeletal type beat that just feels like something. I forget like the exact productions that it reminds me of, but this is just a basic kind of one. It's another standard type fare. Pretty much goes like I was saying in like the overview of what I was saying about the rest of this album. It goes well with songs like Got One, Murder, some of those type ones. Little bit of like little bit of I Got It within a relative type sense. It's definitely some good turn up to kind of have for a lot of these, just these house party type ones to kind of get just a good concept. But that's kind of the aspect. But yeah, the basic social score of this product is basically off the meter. I just would have to say plenty of good sleaze on this product, plenty of good sludge, makeshift dredge, some of that type of stuff, some vehicle knock, just stuff like that. This particular product slaps pretty hard, has plenty of good mixtape type bops. Even if it doesn't have like the huge single to anchor it, I would probably just go with Riot. I would probably say that's the song I would go for first, one of those type ones. Plenty of these mixtape type heaters kind of just go for some of those type ones. The Mike Will Made It beats, some of those type folks. I want to say Lex Luger might have produced a few on here. There's just some standard type ones from like the from like the early 2010s, some pitches like that. Just some folks, the sort of folks that Meek Mill and Future and Yo Gotti were kind of messing with this. Just like another banner type mixtape. If you like Gucci Mane from 2011, Yo Gotti from 2011, Meek Mill from 2011, Waka Flocka from 2011, some of those type folks, you're definitely going to like this particular product. It just has that relative aspect, but it just has a lot of good social blitz about it. It's a real pounding type one, plenty of good moments, and it's varietized on top of that. Very vibrant mixtape. Definitely a banner one for 2011 and the early 2010s. Seminal mixtape, I would have to say. So in terms of the future, like 2 Chainz put out like an album with Lil Wayne in late 2023, and I don't know what he's been up to circa 2024. He's supposedly working on some stuff. We'll have to get to some more of these. I was really encouraged by this particular mixtape. Like I said, this is a mixtape classic, definitely a defining type one. This is one when you think of like the early 2010s and like the mixtape buzz, like the early 2010s. This is definitely one. Like I was saying, this is like a seminal type one. It's an overall classic mixtape that has a lot of impact, and this continues. I would definitely say it should continue to kind of have like that relative notoriety for just being like this defining, I'd have to say Hall of Fame type mixtape kind of get here. But yeah, I look after it, so I'm gonna get to some more of these, but this is a classic mixtape here, I'd have to say, and it's definitely recommendable with all these differential type of moods and modes and this overall house party type sleaze and this overall makeshift dredge and some of that type of stuff, and night mixtape nightclub pounders just to get and have a real blitz of a time.